by our president on the first day. He highlighted the major areas of achievement. One, in agriculture, how we have scored big in making the country food secure. But now we are also going to the quality of nutrition with the diversification of crops which are grown, particularly cereal crops, so that we can have a healthy population. And further on, agro-processing, where he is linking up friendships with other countries, including Egypt, so that Zimbabwe can now become an exporter of food. The savannas of Zimbabwe are not to feed 14 to 15 million Zimbabweans alone. No, we want to exploit them so that they can be part of the global food chain. They can supply food to 7 billion other consumers on the global market. So we are scoring success in cereals, we are scoring successes in horticulture, we are scoring successes in fruit, citrus is now being exported to China, we are scoring successes in nuts, which are now being exported all over the world, and berries, which are also being exported as far afield as Hong Kong. These are the successes in the agricultural field, particularly because the president is emphasizing scientific farming at local level, with Fumvudza being the cornerstone of food security at household level, and irrigation, climate proofing our agriculture from the vagaries of the changing weather, irrigation of the more than 10,000 dams which are in Zimbabwe. We are the most dammed nation in Southern Africa. We want to use that water to supply our agricultural crops so that we can become not only a food secure nation, but a food exporting nation. He also highlighted the big achievements in mining, where the $12 billion economy by 2025 has already been exceeded. There were huge, there were pleasing announcements about the 0 to almost 1,000% growth in the exports coming from the lithium sector, which did not exist before. It is common knowledge to all of you that now there are about 6 billionaires from the best possible lithium businessmen on the global marketplace today. They are all in Zimbabwe. Now lithium, we are processing it, we are not exporting it raw, and we are determined to graduate from lithium concentrate all the way to the batteries, as has been researched by our university at the Polytech. Along the way, we shall be seeking investors from across the globe who have the capacity to come and set up battery factories in Zimbabwe, so that the new energy electric vehicles will be supplied by Zimbabwe in a manner which Saudi Arabia or Russia or the Middle East supplies fossil fuels today. We are determined to be a player. We are very happy with what's happening in the gold sector, where within a very short period of time, the SME sector has joined with the mainstream sector in gold production. And today, gold now exceeds tobacco as the main foreign currency earner of Zimbabwe by 3 times. We saluted, the president saluted the SME gold sector and promised to give them more support so that they can produce more gold. And if they produce more gold, that becomes the route for Zimbabwe to recover its currency. You know that gold is better money than the US dollar. This is a money for 5,000 years of human existence, of human civilization. The US dollar is only 300, 400 years old. So gold is going to be the mainstay of Zimbabwe's currency, and the president is determined to support the gold sector and is reaching out to India, to China, to get more equipment for the SME sector. But along the way, we also want to make sure that the SME sector is safe from accidents. It is also doesn't destroy the environment, and it also makes sure that it contributes in a constructive manner to the national fiscus. We are also seeing exciting things in the steel sector. The president highlighted Manize, which is going to start production come December this year. Zimbabwe becomes a major steel producer. Without steel, you can't make progress as a country. And we are very happy that we are positioning ourselves to become a major player in steel production, not only in Africa, but on the global stage. We told the delegates were asked, because they are representative of the various membership of the party who didn't come here. They took part in this discussion, they listened to their president. Afterwards, they broke into committees. After getting reports from the important line ministries, we went into committees, more than 7 committees this morning, which debated the various aspects of the life, day-to-day life of the people of Zimbabwe, the economy, the social sector, the war veteran sector, the collaborator sector, the rural farming sector, the commercial sector, and the mining sector and the industrial sector. We were able to discuss every aspect of the Zimbabwe economy. We want the cadreship of the party, those who come here, to be fully abreast of the programs which are being taken by the government at the behest of the party, so that we make sure that we synchronize what our people are doing with what the government is programming for their day-to-day welfare. I am happy to say, out of those deliberations this morning, out of the 7 committees which were set up, a raft of resolutions have been submitted, and they were given to the delegates for overall consideration. And Comrade Mudenda, as the Secretary of Legal Affairs of the party, had the pleasure of presenting those delegations, and they were unanimously endorsed by the delegates. I will highlight some of the aspects of those resolutions, the most important ones being, of course, which I will highlight, is on the foreign, on the engagement and re-engagement aspect, where we were very happy that the sanctions day called by SADC enjoyed so much support within Zimbabwe, but also out of the SADC region. This is reflective of the fact that in New York, all SADC member states condemned the illegal sanctions against Zimbabwe at the General Assembly, which was attended by our president. And 25 October was Anti-Sanctions Day, and there were activities reflective of this solidarity move by our neighboring countries, by our former frontline states countries, who are our political sister parties, as well as our partners in the National Liberation Movement. They all affirmed their opposition to the sanctions imposed by the West against Zimbabwe, which are now in their 3rd decade. It's unfair, it is hopeful Zimbabwe's development as a country, it is affecting our neighbors, and it pulls down the region. So we're very happy that this conference was taking part at the time when SADC was hammering the West for persisting in imposing illegal sanctions against Zimbabwe. We're also happy with there was a report on the re-engagement and re-engagement aspect of the debts issue about Zimbabwe, highlighting the work which President Chisano is doing, which is he also carrying out with Adesina, an African brother from Nigeria who is with the DB. We are very confident that along the way we will be able to resolve the Zimbabwean debt issue, so that this country can go and borrow money for big infrastructure projects which are commensurate to the big investments being done by the private sector in Zimbabwe. We need infrastructure of roads, railways, we need ports in Mozambique. We also need the telecommunications to support that, and all the logistics to support this industry. So we need access to cheaper money, which can only come when we can access concessional financing from the World Bank and other Bretton Woods institutions, which we are a member of. So this issue of debt resolution was highlighted, and we are very happy with it. And we are saying to the EU, which is the main partner in this engagement about debt, because most of the debt is owed to the Paris Club, we want to say to the EU, we are very much committed to the re-engagement and engagement process, and to the debt issue, and to the dialogue which makes it possible for Zimbabwe to come to an understanding with its major debtors, so that we can then resolve the debt issue. There is nothing which says a country which is performing so well in the mineral sector cannot be able to pay its debt. It's not possible. a country which has got a very educated population, which can quickly turn capital into profit like Zimbabwe does. We are capable of paying our debts. So if sanctions can be removed and if our debtors can come to an understanding, we say to the EU, welcome on board. We want to work with you on this issue of sanctions debt. We are also very aware of the war which is going on in the Middle East, particularly the savage bombing which is being meted out to our political allies, the Palestine Liberation Palestine, by the Israeli army. We say to the Israelis, they should strive for a ceasefire. There should be an exchange of prisoners with so many of the prisoners which they've been holding, which are Palestinians, in exchange for those who have been captured recently. But more important, we want a long-term solution to this fight so that Egypt, a sister country, is not burdened, Jordan is not burdened, and Syria is not burdened by refugees from Palestine. Palestinians have a right to have their own state as a home. A two-state solution is originally envisaged in the Oslo Accords when there was a peace between Israel and the Arab countries and Palestine. We want that back. And we condemn the siege, the population siege of Gaza Strip by Israel. Siege warfare is a crime against humanity. So is the killing of children, civilians, and other medical doctors who are trying to help people in a very difficult situation. You can't deny people water, you can't deny people electricity, you can't deny people telecommunications, internet, because you want to subjugate them as a population. That's inhuman, and it should be Israel should desist from that. So the conference took note of that aspect and said we stand foursquare with the Palestinian people, and we fully support the United Nations General Assembly resolution, which was passed recently, where with the exception of the lack of support by Israel and the United States. Everybody else says there should be a ceasefire and there should be a safe passage for humanitarian corridors so that people can be taken out of harm's way. So that was on the foreign policy front, engagement with the EU, but we also took note of our friend China, which sent a powerful delegation for the handover of our parliament, a majestic, magnificent building, one of the best on the African continent to our knowledge. It was a work of collaboration between China and Zimbabwe in its design. The Chinese government paid all the money for the building. It is in New Hamden. There was a ceremony 2 days ago. We are most grateful to the people of China who have always been all-weather friends of China, of Zimbabwe, in thick and thin. They support us politically, they support us diplomatically, they are now supporting economically. You know, they are giving us loans, but more important, they are encouraging their private sector players to come to Zimbabwe, to come and invest so that we can transform this economy, so that Vision 2030 can be realized. So this is on the foreign policy front, which I touched briefly, but the main focus I want to reiterate was on the economic transformation of Zimbabwe towards Vision 2030, so that the people of Zimbabwe can enjoy a better life which is commensurate to the resources which God gave them, which is commensurate to their hard work ethic, which also factors in to their good relations with their neighbors across the Southern Africa region. We want to say, as a land-linked country, we are the link system of the logistics network, which is best exemplified by what has happened at Bight Bridge, where we have the best processing system for trans-border trade between any African country. We are very happy with what's going on in our economy. We have scored big in the growth. We are now the fastest growing economy in the region, and we continue to drive Zimbabwe to become the fastest growing economy in the developing world, and there is nothing to stop us. President Mnangagwa, he had a good time. He had the delegates eating out of his hands. He recalled his youth when he went to China when the army was being formed back in the 1963, when the party was formed, and then he had to send people for training. He was already among the educators from the Zanu Pf side. He has been there for a long time. You can clearly see that as a young man he had a vision, and now as a survivor of that grueling chapter of our history, a lucky survivor, he continues to champion a vision of Zimbabwe as a modern, prosperous African state. We want to be the first modern Singapore, the first modern African country which shakes off all the tribulations of colonialism, slavery, and neo-colonialism, warfare, racism, and apartheid. We want to shake off all those encumbrances from the past. We are firmly determined, and that's what Zanu Pf stands for. That's what President Mnangagwa stands for, and is determined to make sure that Zimbabwe makes it as the premier destination of capital on the African continent by continuously espousing Zimbabwe is open for business. That's what I want to conclude by saying to you, to the fourth estate. Thank you so much for covering this very, very, very jovial, animated Zanu Pf conference. You saw the discipline of the delegates. We are a far cry from the other party, where the only organized person in that party is Sebenzo Chabangu. Everybody else there is disorganized. Here you saw organization at work, clockwork orange, no acrimony. The leadership of the party, all of it lining up, supporting President Mnangagwa. No ructions within the party. We know how to build a party. We've come a long way. We did it during the war. And we appeal to the CCC that they should come here and learn how to organize a party. Otherwise, everybody will be wapusa, as they will say. And when we are wapusa, anybody can fire nobody, and nobody can fire anybody in that particular party. It doesn't happen in Zanu Pf, that kind of behavior. Because we know who we are, and we know structures, and we know the hierarchy, and it all ends up with President Mnangagwa as the commander, as the president of the republic, the head of government, the commander-in-chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. That is our repository, one center of power, not the disparate, diffuse nature and confused nature. Anyway, we are very happy that they finally decided to come back to Parliament 2 days, 3 days ago. It's a good thing. That's what a good opposition should do. You are elected to go to Parliament. You are not elected to boycott Parliament. This is the last message to the CCC. I thank you.
Are there any questions?
I can see everybody is hungry. I'm hungry too. So if there are no questions, can we call it a day?
One question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.